calling our department head meeting to order. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Okay, as I noted here just a second ago, the chief will be a little bit late. Tammy will not be with us this evening because she is picking up her mother. She's got some personal issues for the next couple of days. She'll be out of work, and she had her mother come up from Florida to do some babysitting. So, I think we have her report, right? I believe that's in there, so we're okay on that. And the fire department's having their elections this evening, so they're absent. At least I know where they're all at.
Excused absence.
Yes. And most everybody's excused anyway. Okay, with that, let's see what I got here. Let's go, just a reminder, we have no privileges of the floor this evening, but we do have a privilege of the floor next Wednesday, or next Tuesday night. We're going to have Mr. Jameson, Mr. June, and talking about the castle. So we will probably hold that downstairs. It stands right now. See, I don't think we're going to. I'll be questioning whether we'll have a quorum. Anyway, recognition. Mayor's Day of Recognition is coming up. You should have a flyer in your folders on that. GCC is holding a Civil War lecture series, and they also got some information on that, as well as the GCC Promise program. It's just information, nothing we have to do with that. And a reminder that next Wednesday, a week from today, is Election Day. If you haven't already voted in an absentee ballot, please show up next Wednesday, not Tuesday, because according to state law, you can't have elections on St. Paddy's Day. Yeah. Obviously, there's a little bit of Irish influence there. So, that's the reason for it. And now we'll turn over to legislative. Megan, do you have anything on our action list update?
There really are no updates at this time. I didn't email anything out to you guys.
Do we have anything that's pending?
Let's see. Well, we did kind of finish up. I had one on the composting project grant, so I had forwarded some information from Bill Davis.
Did everybody get a copy of that?
Via email.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, sure, we went to everybody, it was just me.
Let's see. Did we get the intermunicipal rate schedules? I didn't cross it off if we did.
For the county?
Yeah.
Yes, it's done, except I'm waiting for, there's quite a lengthy insurance deal going on, so.
Okay, so we'll have that soon.
Yep.
Year-end financial projections. I did that brief sheet for you, Mayor vote, but I wanted to do some more work on that before I give it to everybody. Bill Futner, does he still need to see the blueprints for the water plant? And then the last one, I had Pat for the animal control information on criteria for animal control and cost for budget. But I did make a note that you did quite a bit of work on that, Mayor, so I'm not sure if it's still outstanding.
Yes, it is.
But that's it.
Okay.
May I ask a question before we proceed?
Sure.
Mayor Ball?
You may ask.
Did we hear from Trustee Crowley regarding her absence this evening?
No.
Thank you.
Not that I'm aware of. I don't have any emails to that effect.
I was just curious.
Okay, the other item I have on here is the public access policy. Did I include that with everybody? I'm trying to remember, because I did a bunch of stuff last week. I did do it. I did put together a policy. It's a draft. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I put it in your boxes, and if you didn't pick it out of your box, it should be in your folder.
It's would be in your
If
folder,
not, I'll get it
in
to
your
you,
box.
but it's nothing that needs to be acted on. We need to take a look at it and make sure. It's pretty generic. It's almost a template. But, so we should take a look at it, make sure it all applies to us, and if there are any changes, anything we want to tighten up with on it. Didn't take a lot of effort to do it. But we do, as John told us, we do need one.
Will you entertain comments?
Yeah.
Okay, and this may be due to a copying error or situation, but Section 3 on page 2 talks about location, and it says records shall be available for public inspection, copying at, then it ends there.
There were some things, it should probably be the clerk's office.
Maybe it was like a fill in the blank.
No,
No,
it just needs, that's why we need to go over it.
right.
More than one set of eyes. Say it's basically a template. And it may have been another address or something I copied, cut out of there and didn't put anything in.
Oh, other than that, it
Yeah.
seemed to
I
work
think
well
it
for
pretty well
me.
follows the state law.
It worked well for me when I looked at it earlier. Just want to complete that thought.
Anything else on the, basically it's a FOIL law. Okay. Just a Main Street grant update. The county committee that decides which businesses are going to get the grant money have already made a decision. However, it's not been made public yet. And that won't be until each of the applicants has received a letter from the county committee. But we had 14 applicants from Dansville. And I think it was a little over $200,000.
200?
A little over that.
Okay.
And from what I could see, it looks like the ones we really needed to have done are going to get done. The top amount that any one individual can get is $50,000. Okay.
And again, just for clarification, the total amount of money that is available is $200,000.
To us, it was like I said, it was like I think $225,000.
Okay.
Originally, they told me $200,000, but they had a little bit extra, I guess. So whatever they needed. Okay, well, the update on the animal control position proposal is still outstanding. I do have here a copy of the Oldfield settlement. It's the release form. And if you will look down towards the bottom of the page on the release itself, second page, it says, releaser agrees to keep the terms of the settlement represented by this release confidential and shall not disclose the terms thereof to any third party except releasers, attorneys, accountants, and professional financial advisors under a duty of confidentiality or as accepted as required by law. Under the FOIL law, anybody that FOILs for this now that it has been settled can get it. But I will honor the confidentiality until then. So this is a case that took place, actually came up back when Barry Haywood was the mayor, towards the end of his second term, and they just now have settled it. So, and the insurance company was Argonaut/Trident. As far as I know, we have no dealings with them right now, but heaven only knows how we got with them and where they're at or any of that stuff, because it's one of those things, probably something got sold along the line to this person, to that person. And as you can see at the top, the attorneys for insurance company are Chamberlain Demanda out of Rochester. So there is that. See what else? I think that's all I have under legislative. Megan, do you have anything?
Just a quick note, there's an approval request form from Toma Development for the housing rehab grant for another property in your folder, so probably act on that next week.
Yep.
That's it, that's all I have.
Okay. Is that the, oh, I had one in my mailbox today. Was that the same one?
Yes.
Okay. Public safety, trustee Lubar.
As you had mentioned, Tammy is out for personal reasons, but I did see her briefly today. She wanted me to at least mention, and I know she's spoken with, I believe, the mayor and perhaps somebody else, I'm not sure, maybe Scott or somebody in the room, but this has to do with 3 Ocean Street.
3. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Charlie's going to talk about
Charlie,
it. Mm-hmm.
thank you, it was Charlie, wasn't Scott. Are you going to talk about that?
I can if you like.
Might as well. It's on the agenda anyway, so
Okay.
do it now just as well as any time.
And,
It really doesn't have anything to do with Tammy,
Back
but
way around here, but
she somehow got the message.
Well, yeah, it came via, her office, and she shared with me and wanted me to at least remind people that
I thought I had another one of these.
I
We
can,
need
if
to,
you need this, I can get a
no.
copy later.
I don't. Our
Okay.
absent individual probably doesn't need it.
All right, thanks.
give us some time and consideration.
You want to talk about it briefly? And Charlie can brief us on it.
They'll be very brief. Evidently, at 3 Ocean, there's a sporting goods gun shop that's going in, or that is there, and part of that operation is going to be a firearm manufacturing. And of course, we have a local law regarding discharge of firearms in the village, and part of the manufacturing selling process is they test fire. So it would require some modification to our current law. And also, I think there's some requirement to some funding that may be available from the county, but they need to have the ability to do that lawfully. That's what I know. How does that sound, Charlie?
Sounds perfect. So there isn't, I figured the easiest thing was just to steal someone else's wording, and so I called a couple places around the neighborhood here, and I was surprised they don't even have anything pertaining to shooting, period. Community's a little bit bigger than us even. So that led to just hunting things up, and a lot of people give, basically what we're looking for is an exception to our current, we have a village ordinance from '79 that deals with discharging firearms within the village of Dansville. There's exceptions to that. Obviously, law enforcement officers doing their job, gun club activities, school activities, blank cartridges are no big deal. But nothing pertaining to a business that's related to any type of gun activity. So I kind of cheated what little bit I could find, and it should be a relatively simple sentence. It doesn't take a whole lot of imagination to come up with something. So you'll see what I attached there. I just put in here that the exception number 5 would be any person operating a gun shop licensed to do business in the state of New York and duly licensed under applicable federal statutes that has an improved, scratch that one word, has an approved indoor space for the safe discharge of firearms in a controlled environment for the purpose of test firing a firearm.
Improved or approved?
Improved. Basically, we're looking for them to provide some sort of apparatus, room, device that would control the bullet, the projectile. My understanding, I haven't seen it yet, but my understanding he has basically a box with water in it that is pretty common apparatus in most labs that do testing and things like that. You just fire it into the water container. Mm-hmm. It absorbs the impact of the bullet. Monroe County Safety Lab, everybody pretty much has those kind of, they're commercial things you can buy. Mm-hmm. My understanding is he has that. If he's got that, that in itself would suffice what we're trying to accomplish. I do think it's important to specify that it's indoor. That way people in their backyards are out enjoying the picnic don't hear the bangity bang of someone test firing, even if they are test firing it into basically a can of water.
Should muffle the sound.
Should muffle, yeah. Indoors would suffice to do that. And it's a controlled environment, and basically it's for the purpose of test firing a firearm. Now, test firing could be he builds a gun, wants to shoot it. He repairs a gun, wants to shoot it. He's going to sell someone a gun and they want to verify that it fires, he can do that. I don't know if anybody sees any way to tweak it differently that would somehow cover something that I didn't see there, but I would think it should be a fairly simple exception. I left it with a person operating, not owning. That way, if he has hired help, they can do it for him or that type of thing.
Should we include something in there about ranges, indoor ranges? Not that I anticipate seeing any, but if we're going to tweak this thing, we
You
might
could.
as well include them at the same time.
You could do that. Probably this. Let's see. If someone wanted to set up an indoor range, an improved indoor space for the safe discharge of firearms in a controlled environment for the purpose of this, kind of leaves it generic that we could still approve an indoor range.
Okay.
It would just require a little bit more effort on our part to be sure that this is a pretty simple thing because, like I say, it's just basically firing it into a big can of
Yep.
water. We would just have to do a little bit more diligence. This would cover us to do that, to approve that, if we felt that the room they're actually doing the shooting in was capable of absorbing the projectile, providing for the filtration and all that, the air and stuff like that. And that's a big thing these days on indoor ranges.
Yeah, lead.
Yeah. So, and that's a pretty. Not saying somebody couldn't do it, but that's a pretty big operation to take on to provide that. kind of
I
circulation.
don't see it, but I just think
Yeah.
if we're going to change the law, we might as well.
But I think this would cover that too.
Yeah,
I
okay.
think we should be good with
Most of them could be online sales anyways, correct?
it. I don't honestly know.
I think that's what his intent is mostly online.
Yeah, he's getting out of the storefront business.
Yeah. Which is good. I guess he was going to rent out part of the building for sales to somebody else and whatever. And I think he was going to make an apartment upstairs, a multiple-use facility.
Oh, good.
I don't want to go upstairs.
Just so as don't decide to test fire, but fire it in there. Okay, now, if we want to go forward with this, I guess what we'll need to do is the paperwork for it, which won't be a big deal, but we'll have to hold a public hearing. So that, all likelihood, this isn't going to get voted on until next month.
Right.
Tammy wanted it done tonight.
Yeah.
I said, I don't see that happening unless there's something in the law that gives an exception to this, and it doesn't. This would be the.
A lot of ordinances that people have give the ability for the police chief to make the exception, which would be fine on a temporary basis, but even that's not in ours either, so even on a temporary basis, I couldn't give them the go-ahead even on a temporary basis, so we're kind of stuck just having...
Is there some sort of a time limit he's up against?
Tammy might know, or I can hit him up tomorrow and see if he can give us maybe...
Well, Tammy won't be here tomorrow.
So I'll go see if I can find her.
Okay.
I can talk to him, and if he's under some sort of timeline, maybe some sort of letter from the mayor basically suggesting that we're taking action on this, might suffice to get him whatever he needs to do to process this financing question.
Yeah, it's just we got to go through the legislative process.
So I'll check with him and see if there's something he needs temporarily to get by.
Does anybody here have any objections to anything like this? I mean, this is an official vote.
I don't have an objection, but I would like to have us at least consider that a requirement be that an inspection be conducted by our police chief or a representative prior to approval of the application. I think we ought to be aware of whatever test setup is being utilized.
I can add another couple of words to this if you like, to this exception that it's, with upon inspection and approval of the chief of police.
Yeah, I think that ought to be part of the approval process.
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't want to just turn somebody loose. We want somebody that knows about discharging firearms in a controlled manner to take a look at it.
Now you're asking a lot.
And,
Well, this gentleman isn't he a retired police officer?
Oh, he's actually a deputy sheriff.
He is a deputy sheriff here in the county.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's actually the school resource officer over in Dundee.
All right. Yeah, I knew that name sounded familiar.
He had his business down in Main Street, Springwater, for a while.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Brian Dale's his name.
Yep. Okay. Good.
So I'll add those few words to that, and then we'll see him.
Alrighty.
Let's see.
Just give you an update. Next week, is there any more on the 3 Washington Street?
No,
Okay.
no, that's all I had on 3 Ocean.
I already told you about Tammy's absent right now. She'll be absent again next week. She's going to go to the FLABO, whatever that stands for, but it's her code officer training for the week. So she'll be absent during the week, although I was hoping she would be here for Wednesday or Tuesday night's meeting. She's going to try to get back. Let's see, and there's also, it's open right now. I'm not sure. This is for actual floodplain and stormwater managers, which she didn't seem too enthusiastic about it, but there are some things on here that may be worth going to, because again, it does with stormwater and floodplain. It's a sort of a seminar, training session, conference, whatever you want to call it. They're holding it in Syracuse at the end of April. So if Tammy doesn't want to go or can't go, I'll see if I can fit it in. It sounds like it might be a worthwhile trip to go over there and attend a couple of the seminars. Give us a little bit more knowledge about what we're dealing with here when it comes to floodplains and stormwater for that matter. I don't know if you wanted to go with something like that or not. I think it's got to do with the regulations, and
There's a lot of regulations coming on stormwater.
I'll try to get some more information on it.
They'd like to have us build another plant like we have now to process it.
Yeah. You put that to the public. Yeah, okay. Sure. And, let's see, you got some items here on code enforcement as far as 48 prying. I have some legal paperwork here that we don't hear back from the property owner by the 17th. I will sign it, and that will go forward through the legal process. And it'll go to county, not to the local courts. So, 48 Leonard, I have nothing. 61 Franklin, we have not heard from the company that owns it, but their attorneys who represent them in this area have gotten back saying that they plan to get a team down here to rebuild that porch. Now, is it going to happen next week?
Yeah.
Don't hold your breath. But at least we got a response back. Late, but we got one. And a lot of this actually has got to do more with Scott than it does
Can
with
we
code.
put a time limit on that?
Yeah, a month.
Yeah.
And one's ready to go forward. The other one, they're going to take some action on. And the third one, we don't have anything. That building's got a big condemn sign on it, though.
Yeah.
I'll hold off on the other stuff. Well, no, I won't. Walking around on the campaign trail here, it's a real eye-opener when you start seeing some of the things that are not being done and the condition of some of these houses. And I'm not going to get into a lot of detail, but I think that's something we're going to need to take a look at. And my father always used to say, just because you're poor doesn't mean you have to live like a slob. And some of the stuff is things that can be easily taken care of. However, there are some other issues out there. For instance, I was talking before the meeting with a couple of folks here. Sidewalks. We got to come up with some solution to the plowing, clearing off of sidewalks. Because last week when Dick and I were out, at least one, well actually there were 2 locations up here where they cleared out that back entrance into the Owen place off of Main Street. People got to walk in the street, or had to, because it was drifted up. I mean, that was high. And, we shouldn't allow that. It sends the wrong message to people to this community, or visiting this community, that we're not very friendly about people being able to get around here. You get out in the street and walk. And I also found out today why a lot of people are walking in the street, because now that it's flooded, go from the ice to the flood, a lot of sidewalks are submerged. So that's something we're going, and that's sort of in your bailiwick, Scott, but I don't know how we're going to address this. Some of it could be
Like-
corrected if the sidewalks were repaired and put
Well,
up.
even, right now.
But
with
not
like
all.
Sidewalks, I don't think there's a whole lot that, I think every community's got the same issue right now.
Mhm.
Hopefully by Friday it'll be gone, but it's,
Be back Wednesday.
yeah. well,
And the other one is too, is places you go up to. And again, this has nothing to, it's just me griping. I'm gonna do it anyway.
I'll check flag back down.
Yeah, I know, I'll get-
You're gonna knock that
I
baby
get
over.
speared by it. The number of places you go up to, and they make it almost unfriendly to come to the house.
Yeah.
It's either in signs, or they don't clean off anything.
Beware the dog is probably the big thing.
Well, that's another issue we gotta take a look at.
Yeah.
He got attacked by a dog today. Fortunately, I saw him coming and made sure I wasn't on his invisible fence. 'Cause they were right up to the line. This one that's bit me before. Well, I got my trouser late. Didn't get the flesh.
I think you would have remembered that.
Hey, you know,
Oh, like next
I'm a retired Marine. You give me a day off and I forget everything. I gotta be retrained. What can I say? You're right, though. I should have remembered it. Anyway, that's enough for now. I think I could get everybody except Megan involved in this discussion. Maybe her too. These things with parking. It's just because this is probably not the best time of the year, but it's a cesspool out there.
It really makes you aware of it. I'll tell you.
Oh, it does. When you get up close and see all of that, and the
Yeah.
condition of some of these
Exactly.
places.
Yeah.
You know, a couple porches, should I even be on the darn thing? That's definitely got to be
How many
code.
houses have you been in you'd never want to return to?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Diapers in the corner.
Oh.
The houses that my wife makes me strip and put all my clothes down the stairs before I'm allowed in the house. Because she doesn't want me sitting down on the furniture where I've been sitting.
Yeah. Well, there's one place I went in, and it was a closed-in porch, and they had, I think, everything under the sun in there piled up in that enclosed porch,
One of my son broke
including pots and pans that were not cleaned out.
They're on schedule.
Hmm?
They're on cleaning schedule, but they haven't got there yet.
Yeah.
I always hate
Oh.
when you say he was the mess. Yeah, no, it's a mess.
Anyway, okay, I'm gonna get off my bandwagon. Soapbox, whatever. And we'll turn it back over to Trustee LeBar.
Thank you.
You didn't need to have Tammy here, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Charlie, we'll wait for the rest of your report, okay? So Jerry has an opportunity to speak about the ambulance, and then if he has other things to do, he can move on. Is that okay with you?
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay.
By the way, Jerry, it was a good dinner the other night.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Yes, it was. We had our banquet end of the month. Good turnout, good food. It was a banquet that didn't want to happen. They had a pipe burst the week before, so we weren't sure if we were even going to be in the moose. Our DJ that we had scheduled ended up in the hospital, so we had to find a replacement DJ. So fortunately, I went to the Wayland Fire Banquet on behalf of the ambulance company and talked to the DJ that was there, and he was available. So yeah, but it was good. It was good. So Joe Newcomb carried out a whole pile of awards and accolades. Member of the Year.
By the time we got to that award, there shouldn't have been any surprise.
Yeah, he got a lot. He's most hours scheduled is 1,200, 1,300, 1,400 hours for the year. Yeah. So, and it was good time was had by all. So, all right, you got Scott's report. Did that get to you?
I did, and I do apologize. I had an opportunity to take a cursory look at it
Okay.
today. It looked to be quite thorough.
Mm-hmm.
The type of report we'd like to have on a monthly basis.
Yep. I think we're making progress there.
You absolutely are.
We got 3 months worth of reports.
Yes. But I know that was noted either with the reports or separately about some things are being tracked by by you and
Yep.
the ambulance company to get a better hold on how things are as far as scheduling and
Yep.
drop calls and
Yeah. I actually got it dropped off a little extra packet here. I went through, did January's. Scott's going to do February, so he says. I asked him, I said, you want to do it or you want to send it to me? Yep. Okay. So that right there is the exact time of day for January when we drop the calls. You can also take a look at the calls per day for January, and you can see like Monday the 5th, we had 7 calls for service that day. We dropped 2 of them in the evening. We're trying to get a pattern as far as where the most need is. Obviously, if we had 24/7 coverage, that would eliminate that. We did drop a call this afternoon that was actually a second call. We couldn't get a medic for the second rig. The first rig had gone on 2 consecutive calls. So, and they were in the midst of transporting. So you can see we've got, they're kind of scattered around. We're going to continue to track those and see if we can come up with a pattern. There seems to be gaps in the schedule in the evening, in between when somebody's going off, and it's a couple-hour gap before somebody else is available to come on. As Murphy would have it, there comes the call. Same thing like early in the morning, and it's all stupid luck, I guess you'd say. But we are working on trying to take care of that. Most of our drop calls are from a lack of medic. Occasionally, and it's a rarity, that it's a lack of a driver. And if it's that case, it would be probably 2 o'clock in the morning. But we've got January and February both. You can see where our call volumes are and stuff. It gets a little busy. We got two days of 8 calls in February. A bunch more, 7 and 6. So it kind of gives you a better idea on what the workload is. When the stuff is dropping, and it seems to be lately, if you get one call, you get another one, a second one, right on top of it. I know a couple of the calls, we did not have a rig in service. They were either both out on the same accident, which I think happened twice, and as soon as both of them went out, there was another call in the district that the county had to cover. So, stuff like that you're not going to cover. And I think there might have been one where we had a rig out of service for repairs. So, because both of them took turns out of service to have battery cables replaced on them. So, but it's still a drop call.
well, at least in those situations, there's a acceptable reason
Correct.
as to
Correct.
why that occurred.
Yep. And, like Scott's noted on some of his reports, there's some misentries where the county gave us the call when it shouldn't have been our call. Sometimes the transfer is out of noise that the county does. Depending upon the dispatcher, they'll put it down as our call when it's not. It's the county's call because they're coming directly out of noise. So, and Scott goes through the run log, and it's about 65 pages that he has to go through. So it's a pretty good little book. So, and if we really look into it hard, we can tell if it's a first call or second call, or even a third call.
So when there's a dropped call, you're capturing the details as far as the time of day and the situation,
Absolutely, yep.
and
what
you're
it is
maintaining some type of list or whatever it is.
Yeah, what we're gonna do is we'll continue to track it on a calendar like this until we can once we can get more people on the schedule, this will go away. We hope.
You know, I tell you, it's a disgrace to see the St. John's Company operate the way it is. You know, there were some guys that was operating this thing back years ago that was running out of the back end of a hearse. And to see the equipment that we have today and the technology we have today, and to see it being abused the way it is.
What do you mean abused?
Well, if there's a call, they don't go. If they don't feel like going, they won't go.
Yeah.
Well, that's what Jerry's trying to capture here with this.
I'll disagree with that.
Now
Well-
we'll talk.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I would tend to disagree with that.
Okay.
There could be exceptions.
Okay.
Okay, I can't, we can't look over everybody's shoulder. What they do when they walk in their house, whether or not their pager is on is another thing. So that's why I keep,
That's what I'm saying.
yeah,
That's where the dedication is.
yep.
If they turn that pager off, where's the dedication to the job?
And that I will agree with you on. Times have changed a lot.
You're right.
I've had this conversation in the past with the late Dick Lavin. Back in his day, you had Foster Wheeler. You had a lot of local employers that, hey, you know what? You need to go, you go.
And they kept you on the clock.
And they kept you on the clock. Or you got a form signed by an officer and you got paid for it. Those days are gone. We're running 1,200 calls a year as opposed to 500-600 calls a year. The training requirements have gone through the roof. To be an EMT, it's 180 hours to start. And then you have to go back every 3 years and recertify. You got continuous training over those 3 years. You've got people that are much more involved with their kids. There's sports going on 5 seasons a year. The extra time just isn't there anymore.
Yeah, let's move
And
on.
it's,
Let's move on.
that's what we're battling.
Let's move on.
And the young adults aren't there anymore either.
And the young adults aren't there anymore.
Working families
So,
are here.
I
yeah.
was just at a Little League meeting, and we're putting 10 teams out, and 20 years ago, we put out 20 teams. The young adults that are the backbone of health for the community don't exist here like they used to. We've got half as many kids playing Little League as we used to.
That's between Dansville and Wayland, right?
And that's between Dansville. Well, no, that is just us, 10 teams.
Oh, okay.
And, 20 years ago, we put out 20 teams. Just
And
me.
Wayland had a bunch of teams.
And Wayland did too, so now we've combined the two to have enough competition. So, definitely times have changed.
Everything like that's changing. I don't care, scouts, Little League, whatever.
Yeah. Okay, little update on MedX. Megan had sent me some information that came from MedX. We had 9 charts from 2014 that MedX was unable to access for billing because of missed entry on our crew's part. That's been changed in EMS charts and the electronic charts, so they can no longer use that option. So this situation we shouldn't have anymore. Once we figured out what they needed, we were able to print the charts off, fax them in, and before I could even get the caller, they had already been pushed through for billing. So those 9 are being taken care of. There was 2 more that the county paramedic off the fly car was the medic on the call. We provided the ambulance and a driver. We have some drivers that don't know how to do a chart, which they had to do before the county could even get paid. So those were sitting in limbo. I got the information from MedX, the county's portion of the chart, and Scott went ahead and popped 2 charts together, merged that information on it. That's through. So those are all set. So, and those instances are pretty rare anymore. Usually you get the county ambulance with a paramedic on it. If we can't get a medic for the call, they take the whole call. The check thing, have you heard anything on that?
On the water period?
I have not.
Okay, all right. There was a check that was cashed by somebody on behalf of a patient. Came from a Crime Stoppers thing. I said, you know, get a hold of the bank, see who endorsed the check. I haven't heard anything. So they were going to look into that. Don't know where that is. All I know is we didn't cash it.
Which bank? One here in town?
I have no idea where the check was even from.
Neither the village or the ambulance company cashed the check,
Yeah.
so they're just trying to figure out.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was
I
sent.
don't know. I don't have any of it.
It was sent to one or the other of us, allegedly.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That it should have gone to MedX because it was must be the copay. Whatever the patient couldn't pay,
Mm-hmm.
Crime Stoppers paid it, and that's $505.
Huh.
So Crime Stoppers were going to pay, and then somebody got their hands on the check and endorsed it and cashed it.
That's possible. That's possible. All I know is it didn't go into our account.
Okay.
And
We are researching it though.
Yeah.
We'll
Okay.
figure it out.
Yeah. So I haven't heard back from MedX on that. That's in their court now. The meeting with the county went exactly as we anticipated.
On what?
On the workman's comp thing.
Oh, okay.
Not letting us play in their sandbox. There was 2 representatives from Livonia, the director and deputy director, also the head of the fire commissioners from the Livonia district. Scott, myself, Dave Laban, the attorney, which we have the same attorney, Senator Young, Assemblyman Noj, and on conference call, Senator Young's staff counsel. And then the county was gracious enough to throw their attorney in there by himself. So, you know, the attorney spoke on our behalf. Both sides know now what's true, what's not true. There was a lot of hearsay, and it almost sounds like the county's attorney wasn't well informed on, you know, from the county's side. They didn't
That David
clue
Morris?
him in on much. Was
That
that?
David Morris?
Yes. Yeah. So, as it stands now, it's still the same. The senator and the assemblyman are working on some stuff. Our attorney is working on a letter or something. He said I should have it probably next week. So we just continue on as we are now.
Mm-hmm.
So, which we kind of figured it wouldn't get resolved in a hurry.
This is a state issue, right?
Yeah.
That's my understanding. It's
Yeah,
interpretation.
for the most part, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
You know, the county is self-insured, so they do have some latitude there. You know, there is allowances for them to say yay or nay to certain things. And this is really a something new. The state workman's comp board has never run across this before. So it's a learning experience for everybody. So we're soldiering on.
Okay.
So we're going to track the dropped calls and just a update on membership. We added 6 more members in February. 2 are current active EMTs from other agencies. 2 are in EMT class that actually started their class prior to joining us. We got 1 driver and 1 former member as a driver. We're working on trying to get them orientated and up and running as soon as possible. Usually with the current EMTs out of another agency, run a couple of times, make sure they are doing things the way that we like it done, and then they're free to run. We've also got 4 of our members in EMT class. 3 of them will be brand new EMTs. One is trying to get her certification back. She had expired before she could get into class. And I just talked to one of them tonight. May 22nd is their test night, and they actually paid. You pay $20 extra. You can go to a certain location, which is in Rochester. You can take your written test, hand it in, they grade it right then. So they know when they walk out the door whether or not they passed. So we got more there. We're going to continue to recruit. I still got applications to go through. I just picked up another one tonight. Most of them, are probably going to be drivers at this point, but we're going to continue. We're also looking at the way we're scheduling, see if we need to make changes there. Most places, and we used to, have a scheduling officer. You put your request in, they filled the schedule. If you didn't put a request in, they called you. We may be going back to that. So right now you can sign on, get yourself put on the schedule, which helps when there's gaps and I put the message out. We've had pretty good response with people signing on. So, and I will continue to hound them on that. Do it every day. All right, and on a more positive note, the Explorers and the Goodwill Good Guides Youth Mentoring Program, which think of his name now, Derek Wadsworth from Foursquare Church. We partnered together for an educational career path program this past Monday night. He brought in, about 5 young people. We talked to them, myself, Scott, and a couple others talked to the kids on volunteerism, how we got into, doing what we do. The Explorers talked to them a little bit, gave them a tour of the base. Scott probably spent a half hour in the back of the ambulance going through everything with them. We got 2 applications for the Explorer program out of those. So that will give us 6. So we are going to continue to grow that. We did recognize the kids at our banquet as the charter members, the 4 charter members of the Explorer program. So hopefully that's our future. And that's about all I got.
I got a couple things here regarding the incentive program.
Yep.
And I know that the period of time has been too short at this point, but you were going to, track the impact on the number of drop calls and also the cost. I think you probably have some idea in your mind what the cost would be, and how does that compare with what you were thinking the cost would be?
The cost on the actual incentive payments is actually a little lower than I anticipated, fortunately, because now we've got that $22,000 bill. And if you take and split that out over 12 months, that brings it up to about where I had estimated our cost per month would be. So, between incentive payments and the insurance that we have,
Cost of the comp insurance.
the cost of the comp insurance, we are pretty much right on target of what I thought the monthly cost was going to
Okay.
be. So I'm glad I was a little
Conservative.
yeah. So it's I'm shocked that it's that close.
How is it fitting with the monies that you receive through MedX? Is it sufficient, funds to
I think we are.
fund the program?
Yeah, I think we are going to be good. We have to continue to watch our budget,
Right.
which we do anyways.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think we're going to be okay. I think we're going to be able to
Okay.
maintain. So,
And then the other part is, tracking the number of drop calls, recognizing there are going to be some drop calls that there are some very good reasons why
yeah,
they fall into that bucket, and maybe they ought to be put someplace else and not counted as a drop call if you're going to track them.
Yeah.
With reason and without reason.
okay.
Like the examples you gave where the two ambulances were out, and if a call came in and
Somebody else is going to be covering that one no matter what.
yeah,
So, yeah.
but you're still capturing that as a drop call, right?
Right, and in the county's eyes, it's a drop call.
Well, I
Yeah,
know.
I know.
I understand that in the purest sense,
Yeah, splitting hairs.
but
Yeah.
if you want to look at the success of the incentive program, I think you're going to have to somehow maybe track it with the total number of drop calls from a pure sense, but also ones that could be rationalized to not count them.
The one that are they're true drop calls.
Right.
Where
Yeah, I would
yeah.
be tracking it both ways.
Yeah, certainly. We can certainly do that. So.
And that will be something that we would have an interest in hearing about on a monthly basis.
Okay. All right. And actually, I'm going to try to get a small report together on MedX
Yeah.
itself. It's numbers that you can all get. Megan's got those same reports. What I'm going to do is I'm going to break out the gross revenue, takeaways, contractual subtractions. That's the stuff that isn't covered because Medicaid, Medicare, and certain insurance companies pay on a fee schedule. So you're never going to get that. And then, because I believe our actual recovery rate is around 80%, 80.1, which I think is pretty good. Of recoverable amount of money, we're able to get 80% of it. I'll see if I can dig into the report. I may have to ask for a special report as far as how much is written off, as far as people refusing to pay.
Right.
I'll see if I can get that information out of that report too. So it may be interesting to see that.
I don't know if MedX would provide the information or not. They wouldn't have to actually give you the data, but how does that figure compare to others that are using their system?
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, they might be able to do a area average.
Maybe it's high. It could be high. 80.1. I don't know.
I know rural metro in the city of Rochester, their recovery rate is about 23%. And you wonder why they filed for bankruptcy when they did? Yeah.
Like
And,
I said,
you're talking paid crews.
That sounded like a good figure to me. I mean, even before you gave that
Yeah.
information, that when you're trying to collect money, it's an uphill battle.
I think 80% is pretty darn good. So, and just one more thing, something that Assemblyman OJ mentioned has to do with all volunteer fire and ambulance companies throughout the state. You get downstate, you get New York, they don't have volunteers. So when he's trying to get some stuff through the assembly, they don't understand what he's talking about. Can you imagine the impact on the taxes without the volunteers?
Oh, absolutely. Astronomical.
I don't know if this is a true figure. I heard the county EMS ran in the red by $1 million.
That's not in the right direction, and that's a high number.
So obviously, $1 million came out of the tax base to support the county units. Ouch. I don't know how true it is, but that's a number that I heard. And then start adding on more ambulances because there's,
Whose jurisdiction do they come under, county? The ambulances and the EMS people?
What's that now?
The
that's,
county, ALS and their ambulances, which department do they come under? Is that Department of
They're
Health?
their own.
Yeah, their own.
They're under
Yeah.
their own county EMS.
yeah, Livingston County EMS.
Okay.
Because you got Karen Dewar, who's the director. I guess that's her official title.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have a paramedic supervisor, which is Ronald.
So Karen would be the person to call to find that out? I'm just
Probably,
curious.
you probably could. That's a number that I heard. I don't know how accurate it is. I would imagine, based on recovery rates, it's probably not far off because the EMTs that are the drivers on the rigs are part-time and they're probably getting $10 an hour. The paramedic on each one of the rigs and in the fly cars, they got to be making $15 to $20 an hour. They've got 3 ambulances. I don't think they're on 24/7, all 3 of them, but I think at least 2 are.
One north, one south.
One north, one south. And then you've got 2 or 3 fly cars, 78, 79.
I would think that $1 million had a lot to do with startup initiatives with buying the rigs and stuff because
That could be.
I don't think that if you added up all their hourly rate, you'd even hit that. But you've got your extra insurances.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
That would make better
it's
sense.
a scary thought,
Well, it's like anything. See how much,
Just,
see how much
yeah.
the rigs cost, fire trucks cost, all that stuff's expensive. Nothing's cheap.
And they bought some nice rigs down there too.
Yeah, they're probably,
They're 20 grand cheaper than a full rig though.
I think they're about 90.
Yeah.
90,000 on the rigs without the equipment. They're wheel coach, they're disposable.
What was the one they bought? Was it like a Volvo or something?
Mercedes.
Mercedes. That was
Yeah.
it. But it was,
Okay, get us back on track.
it was cheaper than a regular rig though.
Yeah.
We appreciate
It
your
works, man.
comments. However, Jerry, anything else to offer?
That is it.
Any other questions from the board? Thank you, Jerry.
Take up so much time.
Appreciate it. Thank you for updating us on.
There's nobody
the,
else to take it
reports.
up. You might as well do it.
Okay. I don't feel bad.
Just work out some way that you have a representative here on a monthly basis and have
Okay.
reports, and we're golden.
Okay.
Thank you for your service to the community.
And I hope I never have to use you.
There you go. Been a lot of challenges. Okay, Charlie, you're back on.
Okay. I'll just bounce around here on a bunch of odds and ends. So next couple of weeks, we're just going to do a couple student ride-alongs for the law enforcement. Sent the law enforcement class from BOCES. So if you see a couple high school students riding along in the office, that's what they're doing. The weather's changing, so everybody comes out of hibernation. Lock your cars. They started car shopping last night, taking credit cards, loose change, whatever's not nailed down inside your car, so it's not locked up. They're going to be out there removing your property.
Nick was one of them.
Really?
Let's see. In the area of responsibility, the court today took $3,000 in forfeited bail, just to show you it doesn't matter how much money you put on some people, they're just not going to show up. Hence why we've got 150 plus warrants on file, because people just don't have any respect to show up when they're supposed to show. The Genesee Sun will be down on Monday to give Officer Chapman his award for the issue down with the guy shooting on.
I understand
West
that's
Ave.
been changed to next month.
They called today and wanted to
No,
confirm it.
they asked if they could change it again.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're shooting for Monday at 4. I
sorry.
just want to grab some pictures of it all. The guys took off
But where are we going to do this? Is it just going to be get them in the closet and give it to them, or are
I
we going to
think
do
so,
something?
yeah.
Originally, it was going to be in a board meeting.
Yeah, I think now they're just to the point where they just want, the Genesee Sun just wants to take a couple snapshots. I'm sure they'll just pose in front of a police car and take a couple snapshots and do their story and the way they talk today.
Yeah, I think I'd like to be there.
Okay. 4 o'clock, where it stands right now, 4 o'clock Monday.
4 o'clock Monday.
They did mention having you.
I don't need to be in the picture, but I just want to be there.
Yeah. I didn't get that far with them yet. We're just trying to nail down the date and time.
Thank you for that change.
The guys took off a young guy dealing marijuana, which is a problem by itself. But when you recognize this particular individual has a history of heroin addiction and stuff like that, and we've arrested him for that as well in the past. He just doesn't seem to get the clue. He went from possessing to dealing. They took him off the other day. The guy's alcohol, underage drinking is always a concern. You'll see they're attached that they had a complaint of some parking issues, and I think they ended up arresting, 15 people for underage possession of alcohol and marijuana, and the guy who hosted the party, who was only 20, for unlawfully being with a child, numerous counts of that. It was a pretty big, and that's not counting the kids that were there that didn't consume alcohol anyways, that we let go, so it was a pretty big party down in Fulton Street and had the neighbors upset. Along those same lines, the guys did a good job, and they were able to put some cases together on local stores that were selling without checking ID. And I think they did 3 different businesses, 5 different employees.
Booze or cigarettes or both?
Booze, if they were selling to people underage. What else we got here? On the line of drinking and driving, we're going to be doing a traffic grant for DWI coming up. Too bad it wasn't last weekend, because we had the guys picked off 3 people for DWI this past weekend. One guy was doing donuts in Tops Plaza, so he got arrested for drunk driving. Another girl with a suspended driver's license for the previous drunk driving decided to hang her truck up on a snowbank. Then she became completely miserable in the office down here.
Miserable to you?
Yeah, to us, yeah. So, 3 o'clock in the morning, I guess it was 4 o'clock in the morning, she decided it wasn't a good idea to go to jail. Going to try to have the guys attend some training here in the next month or so, as it comes up towards the end of April, I think it is. One in particular is on drugged driving, because drugged driving is becoming probably, statistically, medical-wise, the studies they've done have shown drug driving is probably at least a third, if not half, as prevalent as alcohol driving. And then many of the alcohol intoxicated drivers are also driving under the influence of some sort of either marijuana is the most common or prescription meds and things of that nature. So hopefully we're going to send the guys out. I'm hoping to send 4, Grease, Burley, Schaefer, and Chapman all out to that. Then there's a small course, a couple hours. I'm hoping to send most of them out. We get a lot of complaints, not a lot of complaints, but a significant number of complaints as the years go by on motorcycle operation and loudness and things like that. So the state police offer a quick course on that, so we'll probably try to send the guys out to that too, just to get updated on motorcycle issues. The guys took off a guy for cocaine dealing here today. Got the indictment and everything on that, so they took him off today. He's going to jail. Monday we had a pretty prevalent sex offender. We didn't turn up on the radar, and he's 32 years old, sexually abusing a 10-year-old. So that's a pretty significant issue. He's in jail. We got a car out there that, as I said, we were going to do the autopsy on. They gave us an estimate of $2,300 to fix it. I have a hard time justifying spending $2,300 on a car that hopefully we're going to get rid of here in 12 months or less. We're trying to get some second opinions to see what we can spend to limp it through. So we didn't repair it. We brought it back as is, and we're making do with it right this minute. Can't afford to park it, but we can't afford to fix it. Female in the cell, many times basically corrections is happy if there's a female in the building, which 90% of the time we try to arrange our arrests. We try to arrange all our arrests, sad to say. And as long as the girls are over in the office or something like that, having a female in the cell is no big deal. Probably run into is late at night, and if for some reason Sheena or Heather are unavailable, as we had Saturday night. I'm gonna try to see what I can work out as what might be some options for us are to cover that when that occurs on occasion, and then bring that back to you and see if we can all meet in the middle and come up
Has
with.
that been a problem?
When it's a problem, it's a big problem. You know, like the girl Saturday,
Mhm.
she was way intoxicated. And she could barely, I mean, we asked her to lean against the police car and she fell off it. She, you know, and then as the night progressed and she started to sober up just enough to start to become miserable, then some of the rules for the jail are such that once we made her aware of that, she refused to comply, and you know, she's dressed with a blanket over her to try to stay warm because she had soaked herself by falling in half the snowbanks between here and the jail. She wanted to take a test, and we drove her all the way to Geneseo, and she refused to take the test. As I said, as time went by, she just became miserable. So, you know, then she decides that removing clothing is the way to put us back on our heels, which it will. And so, you know, we need, in those rare occasions where we have a female in the middle of the night, and Sheena or Heather are unable to come in and set with them, we need to come up with some other option. It doesn't happen often, but when it does, it's a big pain. So, something to think about. You know, see what I can come up with for ideas, but it usually has been, over the years, a very limited number of options. Many years ago, all our wives did it just to bail us out, and they don't want any part of it anymore either.
Should they get as much abuse as you guys did?
They do, that's why they don't want any part of it anymore. So, I'm not sure what the answer is, but food for thought. Other than that, it's just, as I've always said, it's dead or static.
Charlie, I'm looking at the report, and I see total number of arrests year-to-date are significantly down versus last year, and the same with the charges.
Yeah, I would guess that, I would like to think that we're making an improvement. It's possible that maybe we've locked up or corrected the poor ways of some of our citizens. I would sooner account it to the fact that time and cold, crime like bears hibernate, and when the weather breaks, they show up.
Okay.
And then if you look down through at felonies, last year at this time we had 12 felony charges. This year we've had 30. Felonies take a whole lot more time to process than traffic tickets do.
Okay.
And the time you spend doing those is times you're not out writing tickets. And then with the cold weather, people are less active than they typically are, so you're not going to have as much traffic. So I think that's kind of the gist. I'd like to think it's going to be a great trend, and we'll look at the end of the year and say, wow, what a nice year.
That would be nice.
That would be nice.
Yes, it would.
With 2,000 felony arrests.
Yeah. Well, we'll probably sadly see, you know, see that change.
Okay. Anything else for Charlie?
Yeah, let's see. We did the thing on Washington Street.
Charlie, nice job.
I got a letter from Artworks. Charlie?
I'm sorry, what?
Is Salome contacted you about the Artworks Chalk Walk and Festival?
She did, but I'll be honest, right at this moment, I don't remember the conversation at all.
They're going to be looking for closing off Austin from Maine to Elizabeth on the 1st of August,
Oh, okay.
unless the board has objections to it. They usually have something going on down there every year, but I think
As long as the chief's okay with it. I'm good.
this is
You should know.
they got that Artworks group now that seems to be a little bit better organized, and it's helping out with this chalk walk. Everything. I think they sort of initiated that combined effort this past year. It worked out pretty good, except for the weather.
Yep.
I remember it was raining that day. Hard to do chalk on the sidewalk when it's all packed. But they found a few spots. Okay, let's see. That's it.
Thank you, Charlie. Just for the record, as had been noted, there's no representation from the fire department. They're holding their election. But I do want to comment that they did submit their February monthly report. And the same applies to the justices. I have February reports been submitted by both justices. Unless there's any questions about public safety, then we're all set.
On the fire, it's just the chief's out of town till later in the month, and the rest of them are over at the Department of Elections.
Yep.
That's all I have. Okay, budget, finance, and audit. You should have a copy in your folder of the budget modifications for next week.
That's just for the general fund.
That's just the
I
general.
have some
yes.
for water and sewer. I will email you tomorrow.
Jerry, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Have a good night.
Yep, Jerry.
Stay warm.
I will.
Okay, and sometime between now and next Tuesday, you should have the preliminary budget in your hands. And however that works out for the elections, we'll have workshops after that for the board, and I'm opening that up if the other board members have no objection to whoever is elected on Wednesday. Sit in on it because it's, I think it's important. There's nothing worse than coming in with only about 2 weeks left and having no idea what you're getting your hands on. We've spent a lot of time with the department heads. I think we've got it pretty well narrowed down. It might be some other adjustments, but we'll take a look at that. And so
I'm all in favor of it.
Yeah. Dick, you okay with
Yeah,
that?
oh, yeah,
All right.
yeah.
So if it's both of you or one of you and Robin, we'll extend the invitation.
When was that?
Well, we haven't set up a date yet. It would be sometime. The way it works is by the 20th of the month, Megan has to have my budget. She's already got it. That's the one we worked out with the department heads. And then by the 31st, the board has to have it. You have to have a public hearing by the 15th of April. So the sooner we can sit down and talk about the budget and finalize it, and we can set up the public hearing, then by the 1st of May it has to be approved. And we are subject to the state property tax cap, which is what, 1.68%, which we're keeping the tax rate flat, so that, I'm not sure how that figures in the calculation, but we shouldn't be over the,
No, we were fine.
at least that's the way it stands right now. Okay, that's all I have from the budget, finance, and audit side of things. Public Works, Trustee Whitenack.
Yeah, what do we got?
Update on the compost building, when they're going to start it. Looks like April 1st, pretty much finish. June 1, I would say, by the looks of the schedule. Probably with the weather the way it is,
Probably would have been a delayed start anyways. There was an issue, I guess, with some of their
Yeah.
submittals.
I had lunch today with Ryan Colden,
Okay.
and yeah, so it's a little bit later than they had hoped to get started, but
I just assumed we weren't down there right now anyways.
Yeah.
More muddy mess. I did try to get today the year-end totals on the plant for Missy, but she never responded to my email, which we asked for the other day. So I probably will have them, I'm sure, by Tuesday.
Okay.
But if I get them, I'll just forward them on to you guys. That way you'll have them.
yeah, that's fine.
I don't think there's anything too exciting in there. We did have that instance today, I don't know if you were here, Dick, but the PLC, the computer system that runs the head-end pumps, failed last night about 4 in the morning. For some reason, it didn't call. I don't know why they're checking into that. So Randy got there, I don't know, 6:30 or 6:45, and discovered that they weren't running. We had that backup pump, and we were able to take it, hook it up, and pump, and got us through, so we didn't have any problems. You know, we didn't have any discharges or anything. Mark showed up, I don't know, around 8. He got things running. We got the pumps running. He went to the city, got some parts today, but the guy that actually has to come, hook his laptop off, and work on it's in Boston. So MRB was, because it's a warranty issue.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So we have to go to Seawards and then on to the next one. So hopefully somebody shows up this week. I'm actually going to go down after the meeting and just make sure that
Pump's
it's
still
running
pumping.
okay.
So that the permanent pumps are working right now.
The permanent pumps aren't working right
Yeah,
now.
okay.
They worked all day, fine. but there's still an issue with the computer system, so, you know, what happened, I don't know, but it's kind of frightening that, you know, that can happen and we don't get a call. So we need to look at, that's very.
That's what
I mean,
we paid
that's-
for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think, that, you know, we might have to put another dialer in or something, and a backup, to the backup, to the backup.
Is this something that's being tracked remotely then?
Yes.
So somebody's monitoring that
Well-
in real time, or?
If, well, Randy would, he would jump on a horn.
If he was there.
Well, no, if he got called,
Okay.
he can remotely see at his computer.
Uh-huh.
But when you don't get a call at 4 in the morning, you know, it's 4 in the morning and stops running. With no
Who
call.
would be aware of that problem or failure? Where's that initially sent to?
It's sent to Doug and Randy both. They called
Okay.
those guys.
Okay, so it occurred at 4 o'clock. Who was the first? Where was the notification? I'm trying to put the.
There
path
wasn't any
together.
notification, that was the
That was the
problem. It didn't call,
How are they supposed? Oh, who was supposed to do the calling?
the computer.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, but it is set up to automatically set off an alarm to notify somebody. That's what
See,
I'm
the
trying to get
computer
at.
itself went down, which there's a high limit,
So the capability to notify somebody went down at the same time.
Right.
but there was an override that should have taken place, it didn't happen. You know,
Okay,
when the computer goes south, there's
Okay.
other
Is there,
bells and whistles that are supposed to take over that didn't, so.
okay.
is there an external alarm on that would set a light and an alarm off
No,
inside
but
the
that's,
building?
we talked about that today,
Okay.
with the truck stop being right
Right.
there. He had a nice loud siren or something, somebody
We'll call
would.
the cops.
Yeah. So, might be another change order coming. It's, you know, when that floods, it also floods our basement.
Yeah.
Today, all the pumps and everything that flooded before that haven't been removed yet, were flooded again. So, you know, I said it was probably a good fire drill to happen. I have never seen those levels because it's never flooded since they started it. Now we know where every level is, and like I say, to get that pump set up and actually, you know, you can't do it when it's not flooding. So it was a great experience, I guess, to have now. Why we're still in, you know, I can get the guys to make modifications, but that's probably the most crucial part of the plan is those 3 pumps. They fail, that all fails. So my old backup came in handy. All we had to do is pull it out of the shed and hook it up.
He's smiling now because he can justify it.
Well, no, it's not. You know, I kept it around, and I really
I know.
thought about taking it back, and I'm glad, because I called Batavia today, because I didn't know if we had enough hoses to do it. And they were going to send a guy right out with the hoses, but we got it hooked up a different way, and we did it.
It's the same one you're using to pump the creek?
Yeah. So I was really glad to see it when they pushed the button and it fired up and started pumping. Because that pump pumps like 1,400 gallons a minute. And the plant, like today, was running around 700 gallons a minute. So that pump had, you know, no problem bringing it down. And it brought it down pretty quick. You can see it. So hopefully we'll get that taken care of. The biggest problem we've had, and I know you're all aware, is the freezing of pipes in the village. We've spent roughly around $3,500 hiring people to come in with thawing machines, welders, so
How
on and
much?
so forth. $3,500.
Okay.
I think there's one more bill, and actually today up on Quay Street, we unthawed it like a week ago. It was a lady, she's in her 80s, she was out for a week, and she said it warmed up, so she shut her water off. And we told her to leave it running. So I just showed you how fast it froze right back up. So Matt got a hold of the guy today, came down quick with a welder and got her going. We still have CASA over here, has 2 services coming in, one is frozen. There's one at Lou Coella's office, but they have a second line, so we're just going to let it go. So right now, as of today, everybody's up and running. So hopefully, keep some warm weather. But it's going to take a while. People just don't understand how long it takes to get the frost out of the ground when it's down that deep.
Supposed to drop again next week.
See that. Whalen called and wanted to borrow a piece of equipment we had, and I got talking with him, and this is a pipe unthawing machine that you can't get your hands on right now. And he said, well, get pricing, and maybe between Whalen and ourselves, we could split the cost of the machine. It's $2,800. So I talked to a guy in Springville. He bought one 12 years ago, and he's been sitting on the shelf for 12 years. He paid $2,500 for it. So the price hasn't gone up a whole lot. The exact machine which you have, but he said, you know, every one of his neighbors around him have borrowed it. He's used it about 15 times this year. So, you know, I think it would be a good purchase if we can do it with another community. You know, it's not something you use all the time. But the guy that does come down, he's
You're
5.
probably going to use it both at the same time.
Well, you could, but,
Yeah.
you know, an hour, I mean, if you go without a service, it might take you a couple hours, so if somebody froze up, they could wait a couple hours. Not a big deal. But, I wish I could have, you know, if we could have got our hands on that, we could have paid for it. And that machine will actually go out farther than the one that we're hiring that's $500 for the first hour and $300 for the second. So, that adds like a little, that's almost like our little jetter. It actually jets itself out and does it with just warm water. You know, it's always dangerous to hook a welder up,
Yep.
but there's times when you have to do that, unfortunately. And the steamer that Davis, that we've been using, he can only get out about 125 feet. This will go out, they're telling me, easy 200 feet. And it's a smaller line. This is a 1/4-inch line it'll run. So I've talked to 2 or 3 guys on it. They all speak highly of it. You know, I know last year we only had, I think we had maybe 4 last year. But, you know, again, we might buy it, it might sit on the shelf 15 years.
Let me ask you this, is this on the bid process, or is this,
No, it wouldn't be, well, I had to get, which I did, I got a quote from another guy, he was quite a bit higher. There's 2 quotes there, so that would meet our
Okay.
requirement, but, I guess right now, I'm not looking for an authorization to purchase it, I'm
No,
just
I understand.
saying that, you know, it's something that, if this board is in agreement to maybe purchase one with Wayland,
If we
Wayland
could
would,
do shared services with it,
Yeah.
yeah.
and there's another tool that they'd like to do, actually a mole, that we mold water lines.
would that be eligible for, you know, funding from the state if it's a shared service?
I don't know, we'd have to look into that.
Be worth taking a look at.
Yeah. If you can get the cost way down.
But even if we had to outright purchase it at $1,400,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
you know, if we had a couple freeze-ups next year, it's paid for in a hurry. So,
I seen one of these things work not long ago. It's pretty neat system.
yeah, it's nice because you can take that into a basement, and you actually, the water that comes out of the pipe goes right back into that, heats it, and sends it back in. So you don't have any mess in the basement or anything. So,
The estimate from HD Supply, the 283133, I don't see on there as to which model that applies to. There was the model with the standard 100-foot reel, then there was one that has the extra 200-foot reel.
doesn't it say on his quote? I thought it said on there the extra.
I don't,
It might on my,
I don't see it
you know,
on
it might
there.
on my email, but it was with both reels. It was a
Okay.
100 and a 200.
okay.
I see the 100 and 200.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's just the way they ship them.
Yeah, they got it noted on the other one, which is $36.95 for the 100, 200.
That was the first guy found it.
Yeah, it says here the 200 is an optional reel.
Yeah. But I think on the HD Supply, I have to look at I'm pretty sure.
doing that this year.
Yep. 3,500.
If you really want shared services, take the chance on something going down, or the fact that in 1 year you can get your money back.
But when we ever have another year, that's.
But if it goes to Whalen and gets broke, then you're out.
I know. That's the problem with
Oh, yeah.
shared services. I mean, there's not a whole lot on there that we.
What about shared services with the town?
Town has no water.
Yeah.
They
Well,
just
I
waved when they went by.
I can't be held responsible for that.
What's that?
Well, they got water down in Cumminsville, don't they?
Yeah, but we have to maintain it.
Yeah.
Well, they're not paying us anything, are they?
Well, that's been a topic.
We
of
can keep
discussion
talking
for-
about this guy.
I think we've been talking about that.
I think that's been talked about.
That's
for
not
long,
even
long
in a
time.
water district.
Right, that's my point.
Yeah,
That's my point.
yeah,
You need to go across the hall
yeah.
and the conversation.
Yeah, we're good.
So anyhow, that's that. So if you guys could, I guess maybe Tuesday night, give me your blessing, yay or nay, then I can proceed with Whalen, because I don't know what their board would say either.
Yeah.
Because
How would this be budgeted? How would it be paid for?
Out of
The budget line?
Out of the water side.
Out of the water? Can you have that information for us?
Where I would
Tuesday?
take it from?
Yep.
It would be a budget modification if I did something this year.
Well, let us know what that amount would be.
The other issue is, or wait, yeah, because at this point it really doesn't
By
matter.
November, December.
Yeah.
And it probably wouldn't happen until then anyway. But either way, it's not budgeted next year's either.
No.
So.
Well, I think it's
It's
worth,
coming out of some other line other than its own.
It's worth hearing from Whalen if they're even receptive, or have they already indicated that?
Well, that was just the superintendent that I
Okay.
talked to.
Okay.
I told him we were meeting, I said, I'll run it by my board, and you run it by yours, and he left it up to me to get the numbers, so I'll get the numbers.
Okay.
And like I say, there's another tool also that we probably use twice a year, and they probably use twice a year, so that would be a good one to do. They're close by, so.
I wonder what they spent this past
They
winter.
spent a lot.
Yeah.
They had one up there.
A little colder up there.
I took them a couple fittings a week ago Sunday. It was a 500-foot line, and they were digging it up every 100 feet to unthaw it.
Unthought.
Because they couldn't, that little guy will go probably 300, they said. They could only go 100. So, and they hit a lot of stuff. They hit other services, they hit a
Right.
mess.
Yeah.
But I think Perry's had huge issues over in Perry. They've had a lot of them. They had, actually in their sewer plant, I think they have one of those domes that's like a plastic.
Yeah.
It all caved in, I guess. And they've had mains freeze. They've had a mess. Our biggest problem is Main Street is they use that crusher run and they backfill everything. And the frost, it's salted every day with all the heavy trucks. It just pushes that frost rate down. And I'm surprised we haven't had more on Main. But,
Careful. They don't say nothing.
leave your water on. That's all I can
It
say.
drips like you wouldn't believe.
The other, Charlie talked about that fire truck and maybe selling that. I got the prices back on the guarantees on the loaders. Roy Tightsworth was $130. That Alex Land's $135. They're both the same 50-50 split afterwards. I'm still working on CAD on see about trading one of them. So I don't know. What was the issue with the fire truck? Was that about selling it? Does the fire department want to sell the fire truck?
Well, the village owns the fire truck.
I think that was the deal.
The deal?
Going to try to sell it, yeah.
I guess the only question I would have, and this might be a silly question, but I heard one price thrown out there, and I would a couple $1,000, and I would think you could get more for. Sounds silly to me. You could get more for scrap for than $1,000.
Well, I think the board should actually put a.
Exactly.
Yeah,
put a price on it. Really, we don't want to give it away.
It'd probably be fun to find out if any scrap dealer would actually come down and give us an estimate by looking at it and saying, if I scrap it, this is what I give you for it. Then we know at least it's worth that, and then hopefully maybe somebody would buy it for more.
I would say do a whole lot more than
Call Ben
a
White
scrapper's
and
going to
Hornell.
give us.
See what he says.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, that's pretty. How much does it weigh? That's what they're going to pay you.
A lot.
Oh, yeah. That engine transmission's going to be.
I'm sure.
I think it would do very well.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I think
it'll
it'll
promote
sell.
that.
Yeah.
Well, that's up to the board. It's something you guys will have to decide which way to do it.
Yeah, I can't see giving it away.
No, absolutely not.
No.
Absolutely not. So, just something to think about before the auctions are gone
Yeah.
for this year.
Yeah.
There's only really a couple that you could put them in
Yeah.
around here. But, something to think about. You might be surprised with that, what that thing would do.
Yeah.
I haven't really looked at it. Is it rusting very bad? You took a picture of it.
I took a picture of it, but they're,
Do you know that truck? Is it rusting really bad?
It's
if you
always
look
been-
at it,
It's always been rusting
Yeah.
around the wheel wells and stuff, and they've
right.
always patched it in. I haven't been an active member down there in 12 years, but
and you'd be surprised what a
Is it-
farmer would do with it. Or
Is it still drivable?
yeah, I always heard they were having trouble with the steering. They were always having issues with the steering, and the brakes have always been an issue on that
Yeah,
truck. I mean,
sure,
way
yeah.
back when I drove it, I was the driver for that truck. The brakes were always an issue, and the steering locked up if you turned all the way to one of the sides.
Don't go that far.
Well, I was going to say, if you're going to take it to auction, you want to I'd rather drive it than have somebody haul
Really
it.
laugh at that.
But maybe
You
that's
could
not
go
possible.
That's not an issue. I mean, if you're gonna go up to Teachworth, I'd drive it up there. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
you just take your time and there's a lot of worse vehicles on the road, I'll guarantee you that. I mean, it wasn't very long ago, it was responding to fire so we can make it up there.
Exactly. That's right.
You guys bring up
Your aluminum on it is got it right there.
There was a letter today, I'm not even sure I put it in your folders. Hoping I did, but maybe I didn't. Let me check here. It was from Linda Boyd. I thought I made a copy of it this afternoon.
Yeah, I saw
Oh, okay.
it in here.
Yeah, take a look at it. Don't need any decision tonight. You know, she's requesting that the penalty on her water sewer bill be waived. That's what, $37.61.
Yeah, right.
And there's an explanation for it and everything. And anything you want to comment on it, Scott?
I talked with her and told her that there was nothing I could do for her. I just said, under the circumstances, I think if she would have paid it a little quicker than she did, I mean, 2 weeks, late. I mean, a few days. It's not my choice, it's your guys' choice. I understand her father died, and
We'll decide next week.
I think it certainly merits some attention, given the extenuating circumstances that led to her paying it late. But Scott makes a good point, but we just need to take a little closer look at it and have a discussion. But
well, when that,
it's not your
when that
run-of-the-mill,
happens, yeah,
I just
yeah,
didn't pay it.
No,
There was a lot going on
exactly.
with the family, with her during that period of time, and I think we should consider that. That's kind of where I'm at.
Okay. Let's see what else. Let's see. I should have gotten the composting grant information. Water and sewer situation hasn't changed any. We'll let the new guys help decide that.
why.
That's kind of the welcome.
You get your baptism.
That's kind of the welcome mat that we're putting out there.
You got a
It's
quorum
a
right here
slippery
with-
slope and it's going uphill. Get some traction underneath you.
When we do this, we're going to have to have some public information sessions and stuff like that. It's like you can't just do it overnight. I don't think that would be fair. We're going to have to get out there with some publicity, why, how comes, and all of that. And any options we can come up with. So fresh ideas are always appreciated.
If I may,
That was you.
Scott, how's Karen making out on putting those numbers together, that information?
I started on it. A lot of the numbers that I had didn't agree, and I just haven't had time to sit down with Karen, to be honest with you. I started it 2 or 3 times. It's like today,
But we are going to do it though, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Okay.
There's a lot of information I wish that we could get, that would be painstaking to get, but we'll just put together what we have. And like I say, again, I'll sit down and we'll go over a few of my suggestions and see what else you can come up with.
Well, let's take a look at it.
Yeah.
And, like I said, go from there. Take what we can get our hands on at this point, and we'll put our heads together and see where we end up.
Yep.
The only thing I have left under Public Works is flood control issues. Last month we had a discussion about possibly self-insuring. I did talk with John Vogel. He looked into it. He isn't too sure that we can do it. It would be up to banks, really, if they would even accept it. It's something that probably needs a little further study, a little bit further discussion with folks. Maybe even with the county, since they're part of that, the NYMER process, which is self-insured process. So.
Yeah, it might be advantageous to get them folks in and talk with them too. Bring them in.
Unless the state does something, it's going to cost us a chunk of money to,
Oh, yeah.
I think, rectify it. And we may have to still go forward with it anyway, I don't know. Keep pursuing it.
I'd be interested in knowing what our elected state officials think about the
I
idea.
did mention it to Kathy Young that I would
Yeah.
be getting a hold of her on this.
I'd be interested in her thoughts on it.
mhm.
You know, what are the merits of it, or what she thinks about it.
I mean, it's a federal issue, but still,
Yeah,
the state could help us out somehow.
they could.
If it came to self-insuring, that would be fine too. It is just absolutely absurd to expect a small community like this to keep paying those kinds of rates.
Right.
You get all this big flooding on the higher side of town, and it doesn't affect the east side or the west side, the lower side.
No.
Makes no sense.
If
If it's going to get that high, it's going to flood the whole doggone valley. This makes no sense. I don't know where they get their numbers from.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Something finally goes that way, that side of town. Literally the other side of the tracks.
Yeah, I know.
So you're telling us that you made a good decision on where you decided to
I
locate.
absolutely did. I've always lived on Washington
Yeah.
Street. Washington Pine, Washington Knox, Washington Clare Barton. Yep.
I lived on Washington Street, about 6 years old.
Yeah.
See? There you
Wasn't
had an
last year
opportunity.
Okay.
Well, I was hoping we could discuss this issue about cell phones and everything this evening, but since we don't know what it's going to be about, we'll put that off to next week maybe.
Yeah.
And we're supposed to make a decision, I think it's next week, on the summer rec bid. We've only had one.
He's close, right?
Pardon?
Well, I shouldn't say that.
Well,
There's time for,
and I got some other information here on a tree program that Mike Blum offered to us. Obviously, that's got to do with particularly down on Main Street, but there's other
yeah,
areas.
we got a bunch of them down there. We got to do something.
They're in trend or taken out.
Yep, yep. And we need to do it instead of talking about it. We gotta do it.
Okay, is there any unfinished or new business that needs to go onto the agenda for next week?
You mentioned about the cell phones. There was a policy.
Yes.
Did you put that together? Or who was? You put that together, Megan? The cell phone?
The mayor asked me to put it in the folder.
No, we've had it for a while.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
The last time it was open and modified was in 2012, so we did something with it. I don't know if I just changed the letter or something, but I found it on my computer in the old account that's on this thing.
Do we want to entertain a comment at this point, or wait
Sure.
till?
Yeah, go right ahead.
On page 2,
Mhm.
section Roman numeral 4. It talks about the maintenance of village cellular telephones and wireless devices. Skipping down to, if the employee has mismanaged the device and/or not used prudent judgment, he/she may be responsible for the replacement of such device should it become damaged. Two questions came to my mind. Who makes the decision, and how is the replacement cost determined? I'm not looking for answers, obviously, but those are, working through here, I was fine with everything else. Those are just two questions. It's kind of open-ended. You know, who's going to make the decision about mismanaging the device or, misusing it? And then who's going to assign, the replacement costs, or how's that going to be determined? Darn, that looked good to me.
Okay. Well, just off the top of my head, I would think the department head would have to rely on their, whatever they find out about it.
Yeah.
That would just be incorporating that in there then.
Yeah. Leave it up to them to tell us whether or not it was misused.
And we could put in there maybe a cell phone
But if we
of
do,
comparable value. I don't know how to arrive at that. I didn't really think that through, how to improve it.
we might want to think about it a little bit more, because if you start charging an employee with something, they're going to come back at you, especially if they're union
Yeah, right.
employees.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't
Maybe
had
that shouldn't even be in
any
there then.
issues at all.
Pardon?
Maybe that shouldn't even be in there.
That's what I'm wondering,
Yeah.
because
Maybe
really,
it should be in there.
pretty much with us, with governmental, we have so many lines that we can get a new phone at any time, it's free. When we get a new phone out.
I mean, short of the person just stomping on it or throwing it against the
Exactly,
wall, I don't
yeah.
know.
What do you,
I mean, someone could lose their temper and do that, but that doesn't happen very often.
Well, and I think too, the others probably, like me, I mean, I can't get away from this thing. I mean, I sit at the ocean, and my kid goes upside down in the wave, I go after him. Next thing I know, this thing's been drowned for an hour in the ocean. I'm
Don't
amazed it
do
still
water
works.
well.
they don't do water.
It works. I threw it on the countertop and left it for a day, and it was fine.
Really?
So, I mean, like myself, I mean, I'm probably, of everybody in the village employment, I'm probably more accident prone with this thing than anybody else because it never leaves me. No matter what I'm wearing, no matter where I am, I've got it on me 24/7. It lays on the floor next to my bed at night. I mean,
Well, I got 3 more exactly like it.
Yeah.
That we've turned off, so you can
So,
go, Charlie.
And I can
Well,
get
maybe
you
there's
20
no
more
need to
after
have
that.
and maybe we just leave it as is.
We've got boxes of things over there.
Just leave it as is.
I think if somebody damages it, you can give them an option, that or disciplinary action, if it comes to that point, and leave it alone.
Yeah.
and I think it really comes down to whether it's an intentional act or just
Something.
the odds are against you because
Right.
you have it all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's been a problem, so.
Oh, accidents
Mine
are
didn't
going to
survive
occur.
Canisius
We know
Lake.
that. We're not looking for that. We're looking, like Charlie said, somebody that, for some unknown reason, chooses, to
Yeah.
I think if that happens, we're going to have a lot
destroy
bigger
or
issues.
Yeah.
put about commission or whatever, purposely, but I don't think that's an issue. That's the only section that I just
Okay.
kind of looked at. It
Well-
got my attention. Everything else saying looked good to me.
Like I say, I think it's one that's been in effect that when it was actually approved, if it was approved, I have no idea.
I didn't-
And again, given discussion here, we can just leave it alone.
Yeah.
This seems to be, has been working, so it's-
Okay.
The only thing I ever had is we talked once, unless Tammy's really attracted to it or somebody on the board's really attracted to that car. I don't know. I'm not. I don't know for a fact if she's actually able to use it daily.
She has used it because I rode with her about a week or so, 2
Okay.
weeks ago.
So I mean, if she's really, I don't know. I think we got to do something about her transportation before the end of the budget year. And if we're going to get rid of that thing at some point, if it works into her circumstances and everyone else's, I would suggest getting rid of it sooner than later and using the money from it to help offset the cost of whatever replacement vehicle.
Yeah, we talked about using something out of her.
Yeah, but she has a line number, but some of that's already been used for some other stuff. But there was still, I think, 4,000 left in it or something like that.
that's not about right.
Sounds
Yeah.
right.
A little over 4.
Yeah, so we would have to probably add a few thousand to find a good used car or a good vehicle.
I think that would.
Something that looks better than and operates better than what she's got.
I think we were all in agreement that we needed to do that.
I guess
That's where it came out.
I guess that'd be the thing, next week to decide if everyone's in agreement that should be shipped down the road, how to get rid of it.
Yep.
Yep.
What do you recommend on that, Scott?
Take them all to the auction and sell them. That's where they bring the most money.
I have no problem with that.
Yep. Yep. It needs painting. Some guy in New York City can paint it yellow and start charging them to give rides.
Like you say, it looks like a police car,
Yeah.
and not a very good looking one.
They got a sale on spray paint down the Rogers at Tenbrook. Krylon.
Yeah. What color?
Good stuff.
Paint it yellow up front and you get more money.
What colors? Some Barney purple.
Barney purple. There you go. Barney purple.
We put about 8 cans on it a couple years ago. Last time.
Well, that's long enough to get to the auction. right?
Don't take it through the car wash before the auction.
Okay.
Yeah.
Code car.
Put them all down the fire truck.
Yeah.
Let
Yeah,
them vote
let
on
her
it.
drive that old Mac around for you. You'll appreciate whatever you do.
Don't turn to the left. Far.
Okay, does anybody have anything else? If not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
All right. Motion by trustee Whiteneck, second by trustee Labar.
Yes.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
You might have to approve that.
Thank you very much, everybody. Have a nice
You
evening.
might have to approve